Yeah, hi peeps, it's Tersse back in the old scope box again, and yeah, I'm talking about the movie Lone Survivor, which I have watched. Don't get me wrong, it was an exciting movie, but I know that the movie itself was over exaggerated in certain aspects, you know, and we know that because it doesn't actually follow the book, and even the book was probably slightly exaggerated in certain aspects as well to make it a better read. But what really gets me is, and I don't mean to demean the American servicemen who lost their lives on that mission, or to demean the man that survived. I've seen lots of other movies and read lots of other books about British servicemen being in quite tight situations, similar situations, and it does tend to have several similar things happen, like an unexpected discovery of the team, by goat herders in the middle of nowhere. And I can only say, why were you sitting in a position where you couldn't watch the approaches to your position? And it also includes another mistake which happens in a lot of these cases, which is a loss of communications. And I have got no idea why, in a situation when you're on a mission which is a small team moving into behind the lines activity, when you lose communications, why you don't hold off on the mission and retreat to a safe place until communications can be re-established. That would be, if I was in command of a small unit, that would be my most immediate concern, was to make sure that we could be in communication with our headquarters, so that if needed we could get air support. I also don't understand, which is perfectly explained and shown in the Lone Survivor, why when you have a mission like that going into behind the lines activities, that your air cover can be pulled off and sent somewhere else. If you don't have enough air cover to cover these amount of missions you've got going on at one time, then you need to do less missions. It's simple to me. I would only do the missions that I could give the right amount of resources to. I wouldn't have missions going when I couldn't say that air cover is going to be there only for you and can't be called off if someone else gets in trouble. They will have their own cover. Or we will cancel a mission somewhere else so you can have the cover. It's quite simple how to organise things. I was an organiser in small businesses. I was an organiser of sound systems, light shows and so on. And you make sure you've got everything you need in case something breaks down. You'll get extras there. You don't lose a mic for one of the singers or a microphone from a fucking drum kit and say, oh well, I don't have another mic. You're going to have to play the drums with one drum that's not going through the sound system. You have extra shit there to cover, and you make sure everything's working anyway. Why the fuck were they men left without fucking air support? Why didn't they pull back and re-establish comms when they lost connection? Yeah, you know that you're in an area where you're going to lose comms, but that doesn't mean you push forward with your mission without comms. You re-establish connection, and they were told, something would be going wrong if we missed this isn't the Lone Survivor. If we don't make our, regular connection, if we miss 2 regular connections with base, something's wrong. And well, if you can't make connection on 2 of your supposedly set out times, you pull back to a position where you can re-establish connections and comms and find out if there's any new intel. So I think in a way that there was failures in the planning, there was failures in the execution, and there was failures in judgment on both the side of the men in combat and the people who were supposedly running it from, you know, the headquarters. And I see this in a lot of the you know, famous stories of British soldiers being in similar circumstances. You know what I mean? It's bad shit happens. You put the plan into place, but as soon as you enact that plan, basically you're throwing fucking spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. And it's the decisions that are made by the people on the ground that matter. And I think bad mistakes were made during the lone survivors mission by the person in charge. I think there were bad decisions made by the people who planned the operation. And there were bad decisions made by the bad communications between, you know, the Marines or the special services on the ground and the Air Force that was supposed to be, or the army that was supposed to be supplying the air cover for them and the extraction if they needed it. And so there was a lot of blame to go around, and yet no blame was given, because this is what happens with the army and navy and, you know, the Air Force. Shit hits the fan, and instead of people being called to book for it, they dish out a few medals, and, you know, some families lose a loved one, and they're supposed to accept a flag and a medal, you know, as, you know, the sort of accepted sort of ending to these ridiculous, badly planned, badly executed operations. So I don't give a fuck what Rush Limbaugh and the Republicans say about it. You know, he is a brave soldier, but he should also be thinking that he wasn't supported well by his headquarters. He wasn't supported well by the people who were told to be his support. And perhaps whoever was in charge of that group made some bad decisions, you know, under stress and under the hype of we're tough and we can always muscle through. Got to be able to make judgments on judgment calls. You've got to be able to, you know, weigh the problems in front of you correctly. And it's not always the best judgment to say, no matter how much fucks up, we're going to push on. Sometimes you need to regroup. You know, it's not a retreat. To pull back, re-establish comms, and find out new information if it's there, and then proceed with the mission. And if you miss your target, well, sometimes that happens in battle, you know what I mean, and you can only hope that you get another chance at the target, you know, and usually you do, and usually it's successful. You don't always, you know, win through and hit in the first chance you get, you know. And this is something that should also be taught to soldiers in battle, you know. There's no shame in pulling back, saving lives. I mean, these are lives that cost a lot of money to train to get where they were. You should just throw them away on gung-ho, you know, we're better than them, they're only gooks. You know. You've got to consider the lives of the people under your command. And you've also got to consider the fact that, you know, things change in battle, and you may find yourself up against stronger forces than you expected, and then it's time to reassess the situation rather than saying, oh, just push forward with the plan as it is, because the plan doesn't fit anymore. I mean, there's loads of British, you know, hero stories as well, from people in tight squeezes, you know, from the Iraq War and stuff like that. And yeah, it's often been a mistake to push forward with a mission when it's been compromised in some manner or other. And I just think it's not to say that, you know, you can't run out, but regrouping and reassessing the situation often can be the best choice you make. So, motherfuckers.